have ISBN number, and so on. So this first row, which contains the headings of the columns, and this, which is a table name book, this is the schema of this table. This is called the table schema. Now, if I have 5 tables in my database, now what is my database schema? Simply means the schema of each table. So the schema simply means column names and table name. So we don't really care about the values here. What you put here in the values here, it doesn't really matter. So the schema is simply the first row, which is the headings of the columns or the column names and the table name. Is that clear for you?
اي وضحت يعطيك العافيه دكتور.
بارك الله فيكم. Thank you very much. I think the schema is a little bit tricky. It takes time to understand it. So you got all these points, ya shabab. Are they clear for you?
Yes.
Very good. So let me go back to your ICS 201 now. You did a database design for ICS 201, but nobody told you what you did was a database design, but it is a database design. This is what you did. Okay, I don't know whether you remember all of you, but you created 2 or 3 files, I think. How many files did you create? Can somebody tell me? You remember how many files did you create? ICS 201 project.
We created one PDF file.
One PDF file.
Containing,
yeah,
that containing multiple pages.
Multiple pages. Okay, you did that one. So let's assume you created at least 2 files. So let's say this is one file. This is a second file. Let's say, my drawing is. Let's say you created another file. So it means your database really consisted of, let's assume, 2 files, isn't it? And then what did you do? So what you did was the following. I don't know if you remind me. So you created 2 files in a disk. So you had a disk, and then you created, let's assume 1 or 2 files. Some of you maybe created 1 file, some of you maybe created 2 files. It depends on the problem that you solved. So these 2 files, you created them and you saved them into the disk. Is that right, Shabab? This is what you did, for example. Okay, nearly. After that one, you wrote a Java program. And the Java program manipulated the file. It was reading to the file, and it was deleting something from the file. It was modifying something into the file. It was inserting new value into the file, and so on. So what did you do? You inserted some new values into the file. Insert. ولا ما عملت insert? Did you put some?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
At least in the Excel sheet, عملت insert new rows. Like here are inserting new values. Did you delete? Yeah. Did you delete some values from your file sometimes, or you didn't?
Yes.
I think yes.
You did. Yeah. So you modified some. Did you modify values also?
Yes.
Yes.
You did. Yes. Very good. Okay. So you did all of this, had some more data manipulation. So you really manipulated your database. So you did this one in ICS 201. So what we are going to do is exactly the same in this course, but we are going to use another software here called DBMS, سميها Database Management System. And this is your application. So in fact, what we are going to do for the course, we will do the same thing, except this. Except you will not be able to talk directly to the files. You will not access the files directly. What you will do is you will access the DBMS, and the DBMS, you will get the result from the DBMS. And on your behalf, the DBMS will do the insertion, the deletion, the modification for you. So this DBMS is a program that you have to buy from Jareer. It's a big program, and we will use DBMS. Why do we have to use DBMS? I gave an example. Last time I gave you what? I gave you a homework. You remember I told you, write this thing for me without Microsoft Word. Let me just show you. You remember I told you this is ICS 324. Let me make it big And let me make this italic. And let me make this one red. Now, how am I doing all of this red and italic and so on? How am I doing it? What am I using? I'm using Microsoft Word.
Yes.
So I am using an application that I bought from Jarir, some Microsoft Word, and I'm using that one. Now, what about if you don't have Microsoft Word and you have to do this one yourself if you by Java? It's going to be a very big program,
Fine.
Yes.
It will take you a lot of time. It took me, let's say, maybe less than a minute to do all of this italics and red and so on. But if I don't have the Microsoft Word, if I have to do this one myself, if I have to program to write things italics and to make them red and so on, it will take me a long time. So, but the Microsoft Word helped me a lot to do this one in seconds. So the same thing. Come back now. This DBMS will allow us to create a database very, very fast. So we don't have to suffer like what we suffered in ICS 201. In ICS 201, you have to do everything yourself in your Java program, because at that time, your application must directly talk to what? To the files. No, we are not going to do that one. That takes a lot of time. In fact, the problem
Excel a DBMS?
DBMS, it means Database Management System.
Is Excel one of them or no?
Excel is not. Excel is a spreadsheet, but Access is one of them.
Okay.
Oracle is one of them, and MySQL is another one of them. There are hundreds of them, يعني كتار مليانين جدا جدا. But for us, I think most probably we are going to use Microsoft Word, or for your project you can pick whatever you want. Microsoft Word, MySQL, sorry. MySQL is, most of my students, they use MySQL because it's very easy. So you have to install it. You don't have to go and buy it from Jarir, no need. You can install it, it is free, and you can use it, inshallah, for the course. Okay, Shabab?
Okay.
Now, this is your database. Do you see, Shabab? This is your database for disk موجود. Now, this is your DBMS, and this is your application program. So you, inshallah, at the end of this course, you will write a project. For the project, you will have an application program, inshallah. You will have a database, and you will install DBMS, inshallah, Garib. And then automatically, we will, as a user, I will talk to the application program, and the application program will talk to me. The application program will talk to the DBMS, and the DBMS will talk to him, and the DBMS will manipulate my data. It will insert new values for me, it will delete values from my database, or modify values for me, and so on. Okay, so we will spend some time to on how DBMS will talk to the application program, and how the DBMS will talk to this disk, and so on. We will spend a lot of time on it. Okay, but now a database system. A database system simply means the following. الحين انتوا عرفت what is the data, عرفت what is the database, عرفت what is the database schema, عرفت what is the database design, and so on. Now let me talk about what is the database system. A database system simply means the following. The data plus the DBMS plus the application الثلاثة مع بعض, this plus this plus this مع بعض, it's called a database system. So in fact, in this course, what we are going to do is a database system. Is this clear for you what a database system is, ya Shabab? So yes. A database system is equals to your database, plus your database management system plus. Okay. Now, how do I create a database system? You start from requirements. أول حاجة هتعملها إيش؟ هتعملها requirements. Sorry. بعد ما تخلص الكورس هذا إن شاء الله a company will come to you and they will tell you, please, can you make a database system for me? So you have to ask them the following. Okay, give me your requirements. ايش طلباتكم؟ what do you want me to do for you? Requirements. حيقول لك عندنا مكتب عقار, we want to do this and we want to do that, or we have a library like one I gave you last time, or I want to make something like a hunger station, or I want to make something like blackboard, or I want to make like a registration system, or I want to make like a housing system. So exactly, he should exactly tell you what do you have to do for him. So the first thing you need to do is you have to collect the requirements. فهمت يا شباب؟ What are you going to do for him? Exactly, لازم يشرح لك كل حاجة. I will do this. This is what I want the database for. So these are the functions of the database. So he should tell you one by one. Is this point clear, Shabab? So this is the beginning of a database. Very good. After you do that one, then تاخذ the requirement حقته, and then you have to design your conceptual design. What is conceptual design? حاشرح لك. And what is requirement? حاشرح لك. Suppose you want to build a house. Okay, so what do you do? Okay, you buy your land, and to whom do you go first? You go to an architect, صحيح؟ مهندس معماري عشان يرسم لك البيت, يعمل لك ديزاين للبيت, isn't it?
Yes.
So you give him your requirements. تقول له أنا عايز حمامين, عايز أوضة كده وعلى 3 أوض, the double story and the شباك and so on. So you explain for him in Arabic, in words, what do you exactly want. So what do you think the architecture will do? He will take your requirements, which is written in Arabic or in English, which is this one يعني, and he will convert it into drawing, standard drawing, isn't it? You know the architecture drawing يا شباب, البيوت كيف يرسموها, شفتوا أكيد قبل كده صحيح؟
Yes.
Exactly. So we are going to do the same. The database مش أقل من بيوت يا شباب. So you will give me the requirements, فهمت علي? And then I will draw for you the conceptual design. طبعا ما حنمشي لمهندس معماري عشان يعمل لنا هذا. We are going to go to data architect. or سموه data modeler. I will come to this different people who are going to work here and here and here. Don't worry about that one. Now you have to convert. Now, if you look at the conceptual design, it doesn't really look like tables. Okay. في النهاية يا شباب, في النهاية, this is what we are going to do. هيكون عندنا a database. And that database will have a number of tables, maybe 2 tables, maybe it depends on your database design. هذا هدفنا عشان نسأل into the tables. Am I going to have 3 tables given the requirement? Am I going to have 4 tables and so on? Then after that one, we are going to install DBMS, of course. Then we are going to write an application program. زي ما كلمتكم معي ولا يا شباب? Now, I am going to spend the next 7 weeks here يا شباب. The next, let's say 6 weeks. I'm going to spend it here. Why am I spending it here? The reason I'm spending it here, this is a database design. Am I going to have, given this requirement, اللي هو هذا, am I going to have 4 tables? Am I going to have 5 tables? And what are going to be the columns of each table and so on? To answer this, we are going to spend the next 6 weeks. So مش حنجي على هذا الapplication هذا. This is just Java. You know Java better than me. So I'm not going to teach you Java at all. This is just you have to install. Do you understand? So this is where we are going to spend a lot of time in the database design. So this is called database design. We are going to spend a lot of time. Now, what we do is, given the requirement, first of all, we start the database design by conceptual design. هذا بداية database design, conceptual design. After the conceptual design, what do we do? Let me just clean this. معلش. So we will do, first of all, given the requirements, we will do the conceptual design. After the conceptual design, اللي هو هيعمل لنا data architect, we will do something called the logical design. Now, this is a design, this is also another design. So this design, you will get it from this design. Now the conceptual design doesn't look like tables. لأنه في النهاية هدفنا عشان نسأل على التيبلات يا شباب, صحيح؟ But if you look at the conceptual design, it doesn't look like tables at all. It looks something weird. يعني I will show you inshallah بعد شوية. But if you look at the logical design, it is exactly like tables. So how do we map the conceptual design into logical design so that they look like tables? I'm going to explain for you this one. This is very easy. This just takes 1 day or 2 days at most. After we do this, after that one, we do something called physical database design. Now, what is physical database design? Simply, I don't have normally, when you have a big database, you don't have only one disk, you will have many disks. Now, this table, is it better to put it for disk هذا? What about this table? Maybe take this table and put it into this disk مثلا. Why? It will be very fast. So the physical database design will make your performance, the speed of your database very, very fast. So there is another person who's going to work on the physical database design. حتكلم عن كل هذا ما يهمك يعني. After you finish the physical database design, خلاص, after that one you do the implementation. خلاص, you create or what? You create your tables خلاص, using the DBMS. So you don't create the tables unless you pass through all of this يا شباب. So first of all, start from the requirement. هذا حتجيبها من الشخص اللي هيعطيك العايز the person who wants you to do the program for him, the database system for him. Then draw the conceptual design, then draw the logical design, then draw the physical design, and then at the end do the implementation for him. Is that clear يا شباب what we are going to do في الكورس هذا? So in this course we are going to go through this يعني. So this will take us 7 weeks. After 7 weeks, so we have our database ready إن شاء الله. خلاص هنا الديسك جاهز خلاص. عملنا التيبل ودخلنا الفاليوز فيه. And of course we have to install the DBMS because the DBMS will help us to create the tables. يعني so assume the DBMS is already installed. After that one, after 7 weeks, we will start writing our Java program.
Excuse me, Doctor.
Yes, sir.
What's the difference between conceptual design and logical design?
Exactly. Okay, can I answer that question just in a short time? Okay, I will show you in fact physical what they look like. Okay. So this is going to be your database system. So in 7 weeks, I will teach you how to create the database اللي هو هذا, how many tables you will have and so on. You will use the DBMS, of course, to create the tables and to put the values. You will use the DBMS to do that for you. After that one, you have to write application program. بعضكم هيستخدم Java, بعضكم هيستخدم Python, بعضكم whatever you want. It doesn't matter. All of them, they can talk to the DBMS. Okay, Shabab? And then, now let me give you an example of a database system. Before I do that one, so the person at the end, you will give him all of this. الشخص اللي قال لك عامل لي اللي اعطاك requirement, at the end you will give him all of this. You will give him the database design. In fact, you can maybe insert some values already ilu, and then you give him also, install for him also the DBMS, and you install for him your application اللي عملته له. Maybe he will use his mobile application or he use his laptop, whatever it is. I don't know how we are going to do it. It's up to you. A lot of my previous students, they wrote their Java and they use their mobile and their laptop at the same time. Maybe you will do the same. And then the person, he will just deal with the application. He doesn't even know there is something called a database. مش هيعرف. All he will do is he will just talk to the application فقط. In fact, do you know Blackboard يا شباب, the one you are using in this university?
Yes.
It is also a database system. في application, في database انه في database DBMS كله موجود. اظن the DBMS بيستخدموا Oracle. The database, it has so many tables like classes and sections and instructors and students. Maybe I don't know 100 tables maybe موجود في database حقتهم بتاعت البلاكبورد يعني. And application. You as a student, you are dealing with the application يا شباب. ما عمرك تكلمت مع DBMS ولا عمرك شفت التيبلات نفسهم. I don't think you even know there were tables يعني. So Blackboard, the one you are using all the time, it is a database system and you are dealing as a user with the application. كنت تستخدم موبايل حقك كنت تستخدم حاجة. So we are going to do the same. We are going to make a database system, and then the people who are going to use our database system, they will use their what? Their mobile or their laptop. They will never know there are something called tables هناك يعني. Because the tables are totally hidden by who? By the DBMS and by who? By the application from you, so you will not see it. What you will see is just a nice graphical user interface do this and enter your password, enter your username, and so on. What do you want to do, and so on. يعني. So all that information which is written in Java will be transferred to the DBMS. The DBMS then he will do whatever you want him to do here for you. So this is our course. هذا اللي حنعمله. الحين to answer your what? To answer your question, let me take you to the slides quickly and let me show you what C looks like, what L looks like. I cannot show you P, but okay, and what I looks like. Is that okay, Shabab? Let me show you.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is your slides. Let me start from the beginning of the slide. الحين بدينا في الكورس تقريبا يعني. Up to now it was just introduction. Okay, so I'm going to just go quickly, معلش, because you know most of it يعني. Now let me just show you the following. Let me just see that. This way to this way of database design هذا بسموه traditional database design. هذا اللي عملتوه في الاي سي اس وات. الطريقه هذا اللي عملتوه في الاي سي اس 201 sorry. You wrote an application in Java and you dealt with the database. This is what you did, okay? But this is a very traditional way. And if you do it this way, it will take you a lot of time to write a database system. Is that okay, Shabab? What are we going to do for the course, Hada? We are going to do this way, the database approach. In the database approach, I will have a DBMS, Hada. اللي ما كان عندي في ICS 201. So I am going to write a very small application. I don't have to write a big application like what I did in 201 because most of the applications already موجود في DBMS. I will just call the methods. They are already inside the DBMS. So it will make my life very, very easy. And the DBMS will create the tables for me. It will delete something from the tables. It will insert something into the tables and so on. And the application will talk to the DBMS. Now, Mr. DBMS knows only one language, Shabab. It's called SQL. So if you need to talk to the DBMS to delete something for you or create something for you or insert something for you, you have to write it in SQL. Okay, Shabab, you can only write it in what? In SQL. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Very, very easy language. Inshallah, you will be experts in it in 2 weeks, inshallah. So I'm going to teach you SQL, don't worry. Now, Java, I'm not going to teach you, already know Java. So what you have to do is the following. You are going to write a program like this. You are going to write a program in Java. Then inside Java, you have to write some SQL. Java code, then inside Java what? Java, and then write what? Write SQL. Then Java, and so on. يعني. So your program will be a combination of 100, maybe 90% is Java, maybe 10% inside the Java. You will embed what? You will embed SQL. So in your Java program, in your application, you will be a mixture of Java and what? And SQL. So the SQL part will go to the DBMS because he only understands SQL. And then he will do whatever you want him to do for you here, and then he will give you back the results. Is that okay, Shabab? Is this clear?
Yes, clear.
Okay, excellent. So the DBMS language is SQL. We'll teach SQL, don't worry about it. So the application will not be pure Java like what you did in ICS 201. It will be a mixture of SQL and what? And Java. Do I have to use Java? No. So you can also mix Python with SQL. You can also mix Visual Basic with SQL. There are many, many languages. They will allow you to embed SQL inside them. Okay, is that clear? Any question?
Yeah.
Very good. So this is what we are going to have, inshallah. في النهاية حيكون عندنا الداتابيس سيرفر مع الداتابيس الديسك حقته. بعدين حيكون عندنا application server. This is where your Java program will run. Then people will use your program either from their mobile or from their what? From their laptops or their desktops through the internet. Yani. So this is what we are going to build. Now this is what you are doing. When you are using Blackboard, you are using your mobile or you are using what? Your desktop. And then you are talking to the application. The application is talking to the DBMS اللي هي موجود هنا. والDBMS is going to do something في الديسك في الداتابيس هنا حقك. Is that okay? By the way, now the Blackboard application فين موجود؟ الكمبيوتر هذا موجود ترى موجود في building 14. So the Java program, I don't know what the program they use it for Blackboard, but that application موجود في building 14. فالكمبيوتر هذا موجود في building 14. Also this computer is also موجود في building 14. So this contains the DBMS, and this one contains the application program بتاعت Blackboard. And the database, the tables are في الديسك هذا. Okay, also موجود في building 14. So the disk موجود في building 14, the DBMS موجود في building 14, and the application program موجود في building 14. وهذا طبعا it is your computer or your mobile يعني. At this point clear يا شباب؟
ايوه clear. بس يا دكتور the database can be these days, I mean, on the cloud, right?
Very good. Yeah, in fact, a lot of my previous students, they did it in the cloud. Yeah. So this will be not in building 14 in the cloud. This will also be in the cloud or in your own computer if you wanted to, يعني, and so on. يعني. Yes, you are right. In fact, most of you will be using cloud احتمال كبير يعني في project. Excellent. Yes. Any question?
I have a question about the project.
Yes.
Will we design a web or application?
It's up to you. Whatever you like. I don't care what you will do for the application here. Okay? So you can choose whatever you like. It's fine. It's up to you. So I leave my students to do whatever they like to do. MashaAllah, most of them they have already done something very close to it. فهمت علي؟ This part it is very easy for you. Okay? So this is a part that will spend 7 weeks, inshallah, and you will master it, inshallah. Okay, so the way we designed our first library database using Excel, it's not a practical way. It's only good if you have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 tables. What about if you have 50 tables? فهمت علي؟ كأنه قاعد تقول لي ايش لما نعمل غرفة صغيرة I don't have to go to the architect okay I can draw it myself بحفر على طول وابتدي في الغرفة عشان ابنيها isn't it؟ But لو قال لي الواحد قال لك يا اخي ابني لي ناطحة السحابة والعمارة no I have to go to architect of course the same thing So what you did in Excel is like غرفة صغيرة here okay but what we are going to do starting today is we are going حنبني عنها ايش a big database عمارة كبيرة ناطحة السحابة ان شاء الله. Is that okay, Shabab? Like what they have done with Hunger Station and what they have done with Blackboard, we'll do something similar to it. Okay, so let's continue. This is what we are going to do, inshallah, for the next 7 weeks. I'm going to give you a requirement written in Arabic or in English. Then you need to convert it into conceptual design. In fact, this is your first homework, ya Shabab, converting it into your conceptual design. Then into the logical design, then into the physical design, and at the end, we are going to do the implementation. Is that okay, Shabab? Now, requirement, don't think it is easy, okay? This requirement is very, very difficult. Collection requirement, you have to be expert to collect requirements. For example, I will tell you one thing. Suppose I was hired by a bank. بعدين البنك قال لي oh you are very good you are what they call you are KVPM graduate and you have taken a database course so I want you to do a database course for us for our stock market مثلا. Now do you understand anything about the stock market? No you don't, isn't it? At least some of you you don't understand it. So how are going to go and write the requirements by yourself So how do I collect requirements? First of all, I should identify who's going to use my system after it is implemented. هيقول لك في البنك فلان فلان وفلان فلان وفلان فلان وفلان الفلاني they are going to use what? They are going to use the database system that they are going to build. Then I have to go to them and ask them, فلان الفلاني, how are you going to use the system that I am going to build for you? What do you really want? He will tell you, I want this from it and I want that from it. So you have to collect the requirements by going to each and every person who in the bank who is going to use your system. So this is how you are going to collect the requirements. So the collection of requirements can be tricky. Do you understand, Shabab?
Yes.
Okay, I will come back to collection later on. But let me go quickly now through the slides. هرجع للكلمة هذه ثاني مرة. Who is going to work on this one? What kind of person do we need for this one? What kind of person do we need for this one? What kind of person do we need for this one? كل واحد من هذول you need experts فيه. when you are going to build a big database. And I will talk to you who is going to be the best person to work for each one of them, inshallah. Now, let's continue. I'm going to show you now what requirement looks like, a very easy one, yani. Then I will show you what a conceptual design looks like, what a logical design looks like, what the physical design looks like, and what implementation looks like. This is what requirement will look like. It can be in English or it can be in Arabic. For example, there is a company, call it company or call it whatever it is. Now the company wants a record of each employee. They have a lot of employees, so they want a record of each employee. What do they want from each employee? You tell them, you ask them, what do you want? We want his name, his ID, his age, and so on and so on. So they have to tell you this. So this is when you collect the requirements, you have to ask them a lot of questions. An employee can have many dependents. A dependent can be a son or daughter, a wife. It's a dependent. For example, in this university, my daughter is a dependent, so they have put her in the database as my dependent. My son is also a dependent. My wife is also a dependent. Yeah. So we need the information of the dependents to be in our database. لأن الحين في الجامعة بيهتموا by my dependent. Why? Because my dependent is allowed to go to the clinic. Then he must visit his name. Otherwise, he will not give him any, for example, medication and so on. يعني. So an employee can work in many projects. So we know that they have projects, and then an employee can work in many projects. And each project has a name, a unique number, and location, and so on. An employee belongs to one department. A project belongs to one department, and so on. So you have to go and collect all the information before you start your design. Okay, make sure that complete information you have here. After, this is what we call requirement. هذا الحين يعتبر ايش؟ يعتبر requirement. So this is your requirement. Sorry. So this is a requirement. R. So this is your R. Now we have to convert this R into what يا شباب قلت لكم؟
Conceptual.
Into C. Yeah. So this is the C الحين. C looks like, okay? So this is just like the house design, the architect ده. A data architect or a data model راح يعمل لك الأشياء هذه. So how does he do it? He will read your requirements and he will convert the requirements into drawings for you. So in fact, if you give me this, I can give you the requirement. So I can go back from here to the requirement. Once you understand this, you can extract the requirements. يعني. You understand? So if you look at this requirements, أنا هدفنا في النهاية عشان نسأل على التيبلات صحيح؟ They don't look like a table, isn't it يا شباب? There are some rectangles and some square and some what they call diamonds and some what they call some circles and so on. It doesn't look like a table at all. صحيح? So what you have to do is, this is what we call a conceptual design. Then you have to convert this conceptual design into a logical design. I'm going to teach you how to do all of this. Don't worry, okay? You will be experts, inshallah. So this is your first homework, in fact, drawing a conceptual design. It is very easy, inshallah, don't worry. After you finish your conceptual design, then what do? You do your logical design. This is what we call a logical design. Now in the logical design, how to map the conceptual design into a logical design, I will teach you, don't worry about it. Now automatically معناته your database, you will have how many tables? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You will have 6 tables. The first table is called employee, and this is the first name, middle initials, last name. This is the schema of the first table. This is the scheme of the second table. This is the scheme of the third table. This is the scheme of the fourth table, and so on and so on. So this is what we call logical design. So the logical design is exactly the schema. And you remember I did explain what the schema means, ya shabab?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, the file name and the headers.
And exactly. So that's exactly. So for us, instead of file, we are going to use table names and their headers, as you said. Very good. So this is the logical design. After you do the logical design, everything now is happening on paper or on, you are going to use some kind of a tool عشان يرسل لك الحاجات هذه. Have you used draw.io يا شباب?
Yes.
Yeah, you can use draw.io to draw this. يعني. So this is going to be our second homework احتمال كبير, or I might combine the first homework between logical and conceptual design. يعني. So given the requirement, I will give you the requirement. You have to give me the conceptual design. After you give me the conceptual design, you have to give me the logical design. After that one comes the physical design. The physical design, don't worry about it for now. What it simply means is this table called employee and department, I will put them in disk number 1. Department, location, and project and works on, I will put them in disk number 2, and so on. So I cannot show you here this one. We are not going to do it with Course HADA. It's a little bit advanced. So the P, which is the physical database design, we're not going to do it. Is that okay, Shabab, up to? So let's skip the P. Now, once you draw this on paper or using draw.io, now we have to create them. So let's go to the implementation الحين. تذكر قلنا ايش؟ Requirement وريتكم. I showed you conceptual design. I showed you logical design. I'm telling you that physical design is a little bit advanced, so we are not going to cover it in course HADA. Now let me show you the last one, اللي هو ايش؟ implementation. So after that one, what we have to do is we have to create all these 6 tables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 6 tables has to be created. How do we create them? Now we ask the help of DBMS. So we'll tell Mr. DBMS, create these tables for me. How do I ask him? By writing SQL, his language. So this is a DBMS language. It's a very easy language, this one. So I will tell Mr. DBMS, create table employee. Now these are the columns, first name, middle initials, which are this one. First name, middle initials, last name. So this is how we create it. Exact SQL job. This is pure SQL. Create table employees. So I will create the employee table. So we are not going to use Excel. First name, middle initials, last name, SSN, birthday. These are the column names that are going to be created. Now first name is varchar 15. It is a string of 15 characters, up to 15 characters. Varchar معناتها string of 15 characters and not null. And the second one is what? Middle-ish, initials, character, and so on. So we create table employee, also we create table department, also we create table department locations. We create all the 6 tables using SQL this way. Yani. Okay, don't worry about this. We are going to spend 6 days for you, inshallah, and you will be expert on it. So you will do this one. Yani. So yeah, we are still in week number 6 or week number 7, where up to now we haven't created the application at all. Yani. We are just organizing our data to disk. Any question before I go forward? Okay, if you don't have any question, let me go forward. في النهاية خلاص, in your disk you will have these tables created and you will put values into them طبعا. So the create table طبعا will create for you only the schema طبعا. But after that one, you have to insert, you have to delete, you have to play with this database, you have to manipulate the database هذا. So to manipulate the database هذا عشان تغير هنا, عشان تعمل هنا, عشان تدخل هنا, you need an application like Java or Python and so on, يعني مع SQL مع بعض. And after that one, inshallah, after 7 weeks, we will start this. So you will do this one. So for Nihaya, this is what it will look like. So this is just a database system. As I told you, a database system simply means the DBMS, the application program, and the database. Yani. It can be in 1 disk, it can be in 2 disks. Yani. Any question before I go forward? Sorry.
Yes, Doctor.
Yes, sir.
Why there is many for this example? Well, there is 2 databases separated.
Oh, this is not 2. This is in 2 disks, but it's only 1 database.
Okay.
But 1 database can be in many disks because sometimes 1 disk is not enough.
Okay.
But now we have something called metadata. And we have data. So don't worry. My database can be in 2 disks, in 3 disks, maybe 10 disks. Sometimes it's not enough for me. It depends how big my database is. For example, okay. So and so on. Yani. So sorry. So this is 1 database, okay. And I will explain في حاجة اسمها هنا metadata. معناته إيش الميتاداتا؟ I will talk about it. Don't worry when it comes to the right time, inshallah. Any question? Please ask questions, okay? Now let's talk about what is metadata. Now let me come back to this. These are the tables that you created, okay? But these are what you created, but there are other tables that you didn't create but موجودين في الداتابيز معك. So let me come back to this. I'll explain for you what do I mean. Okay, so this is what you did. So for your project, you are going to, let's say you will have only one disk. حيكون عندك one disk مثلا في البروجكت حقك الحين ما أعتقد حيكون عندكم many disks. And you will create, let's say, I don't know, قلنا how many tables? 6 tables? Around 6 tables. معلش الرسومات مش سهلة using mouse. So the employee table and the department table and so on. The 6 tables that I showed you, they will be created, inshallah. Now these tables are called user tables. User tables. Do we have other tables هناك? Yes, there are other tables. في 600 table تاني. ومش هتشوفهم انت. There are so many tables. For database مش موجود only your tables, but there are other tables. But these tables, they don't belong to you. They belong to who? To the DBMS. So when you install the DBMS, automatically it will create these tables. What do they contain? They contain metadata. So the data for the DBMS, we call it what? We call it metadata. Metadata. Is this clear يا شباب؟ What about الداتا اللي هنا؟ الداتا اللي عملته انت هذا اللي وريتكم هذا الداتا هذا نسميه user data or just data. User ايش؟ user data or the actual data. These are the data that you will that are in your tables. But the data are the data which is in the DBMS tables or the red tables هنا, they are called metadata. Now what do they contain? What do they contain is the following. As soon as this table is created, he will say فلان الفلاني created this table. المعلومات هذه حتكون موجودة هنا. So the DBMS logs whatever you do here, he will log it here. So these are like log tables, and they are managed totally by who? By the DBMS. So he will say when he created a table, he will say Salah created a table الساعة كده وكده وكده, and this table has these columns, and this is the primary key of the table. Then he created one table. Then when he created the second table, he will, oh, Salah created another table and so on. يعني. So the complete information of what you are doing with your database will be logged by who? By the DBMS. It is good for security. It's good for a lot of things, inshallah, which we'll talk about it, inshallah, بعدين. Is this clear what a metadata is and what a data is, ya shabab?
Yes.
Yes, it's clear. But what's the use of metadata and user data?
For example, what will happen is in one disk there are many databases. This is just one database. It contains 6 tables. There is another database. وفي another database. Isn't it? Now I will show you inshallah في المستقبل. I can give you, let's say, في البلاك بورد الحين. Suppose في database في الجامعة اسمها ايش؟ Human Resources Database موجودة فيها. يسموها HR database. فيها الرواتب بتاعت المدرسين كلهم. Do you understand what I am saying? أنا نفسي أشوف الرواتب بتاعت الجماعة حقتي عشان إيش؟ عشان ما أكون مظلوم عشان إيش؟ عشان أتأكد. I'm just joking, okay? But if I log into that database, then there are columns that I can see which are only for my salary. They will not show my friend's salary. How do they do that one? They do that one by metadata. In my metadata, they say Salah is allowed to see this row and this column فقط from this table. So the privileges of every user will be written in the metadata also. So the DBMS, before he shows you any information, first of all, he checks your privileges. Where does he put that information about your privileges? In the metadata. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, but how can I explain to the metadata the privileges of someone? I write it in the SQL or where?
Excellent الحين. Now أنت الحين جبتني في السؤال المهم. خلينا الحين نرجع في السؤال هذا معلش. So I'm going to go back. هذا حنعمله مرة ثانية because there is no time. نرجع لهذا. الحين حمشي على إيش؟ على actors on the scene. Who are the people who are going to work في database? Let me go back to this one. خلينا نرجع. Okay شباب? Now the people who are going to work for the requirement collection, it's not going to be computer scientist or it's not going to be maybe Microsoft, maybe software engineer, marketing requirements, هم يمكن يشتغلون فيه. But computer science, have you taken any kind of requirement engineering or requirement something? SW students, have you taken something about requirement engineering ولا حاجة?
Yes, we have talked about.
Yes.
Okay. So you are more qualified than CS students anyway. But the problem with software engineering students, they are not good in business. So if I take a software engineer or computer science student to a bank, وأقول له يا أخي اعمل لي collect requirements for me. So what do I have to do? I have to go to every person who's going to use the system after it's developed, isn't it? فحاجة لأول واحد هقول له يا أخي I want to make a database system. So I want, what do you want from the database? في النهاية كلمني. هيقول لك يا أخي I want the debit كده and the credit كده and I want the intrinsic value to be كده. يتكلم بلغة you will never understand it because this is language for the banks and you are a computer scientist. So you will never understand him. The terminology, مصطلحات, you are going to design a database for him. So unless you understand whatever he is telling you, this guy, how are you going to do the requirement for him? You don't even understand it. So your language, which is a computer science language, and the business language or the bank language is totally not totally unrelated. So it will be so difficult for you to collect the requirements. You don't even know what to ask him exactly. So for the R, the right person is not computer science. I don't think even software engineer is the right person, but the right person is guys from MIS. In fact, zaman, when I was a student, there was nothing called MIS. But then they found out, because at that time, لما احنا كنا طلاب يا دوب الكمبيوتر ساينس بدأ, it was new at that time in the 1980s. And we never had something called software engineering. We don't even have something called MIS. Always, everything was computer science. But when the computer science was asked to go and collect requirements, he could not understand the language. So that's why the MIS was created. The MIS was created to bridge between a computer scientist and the business people. Okay, Shabab? So any person who can collect requirements from a big business is not SWE or is not computer science. It has to be MIS. What about the conceptual design? Conceptual design is like the foundation of your database. You have to be good to design the database. Not everybody is good in designing the database, Shabab. So this, you need something called data architect or data modeler. So a different person. MIS, he has to take more courses to make it to be a data modeler, or he must have a different person. So I will get the requirements in a book, and then I will take these requirements and then I will convert them into the conceptual design. But who is going to do the conceptual design? The book is going to be prepared by MIS, but the design is going to be done by a data architect or data modeler. A different person. And data modeler should be a very, very good person. I remember when I was working in companies, I worked for 10 years تقريبا في database في شركات before I come to the university. We had one Chinese guy who was excellent data modeler. He makes a good foundation for the database for you. Then later on, when you are writing a program, you will find everything has been done for you. A bad data modeler, he will make your life hell. Instead of finishing the project in, let's say, in 5 or 7 months, you will finish in maybe 10 months because the design is bad. So you need a very good data modeler. So data modelers, they are, some people are so good, they can see forward. They just like playing chess. Some people, they can see 2 or 3 steps ahead. The same thing with the data modeler. The good data modeler can see 2 or 3 steps ahead. So he will make you so happy when you program. The logical design, this is done by DBA. It's another person. It's a database administrator. So database administration, it is another course that you have to take to be a database administrator. So, okay. Physical database design is also the DBA. What about implementation? Is also the DBA. So DBA is a very busy person. What about the software engineer and the other guys? These guys are going to do later on, inshallah, the application حقتنا. You know the application, what I told you? So here's the Java application مع SQL. This is done by software engineers. Yeah. So we will have different people who work on this one. Who is a database administrator? Who is a data modeler? This is computer science. DBA or data modeler حيكون computer science. So computer science will work for us for database. SWE will work in the application design and development. MIS will work also in the requirement collection and so on. So we have different people. These are the different people who are going to work for database. Oh, I think it's time is over, Marish. I will stop here and continue next time. If you have any questions, okay, please keep it for the next time. Sorry. Okay. Just before you go, Shabab, let me take the attendance quickly. Quickly, معلش. خلاص, it's done. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Victor.
My pleasure. Thank you.
دكتور.
Yes.
أنت مشغول يعني بتمشي ولا؟
لا. You can ask. Don't worry. I'm here.
ممتاز. بالنسبة لدكتور طيب السكيورتي حقت الداتابيس هل هي مسؤولية الداتابيس مانجمنت سيستم ولا مسؤولية الدي بي اي؟
Very good. There are two levels of security. في security في الابلكيشن وفي security في الداتابيس. معي ولا ايه؟
ايوه.
ففي الداتابيس هيعملها الدي بي اي. And we'll talk about this one إن شاء الله later on. Okay, when we create the table and so on هتكلم عنه. أما في الابلكيشن the software engineer has to do it.
يعني شو اسمه الداتابيس مانجمنت سيستم ما في ليفل اوف سكيورتي هو نفس
No, there are methods inside the database management system داخله موجود كل الميثودز موجودة. So the DBA has to use those methods to create security. Okay.
هذا شيء ثاني يا دكتور. الداتا الميتا داتا والداتا who owns them؟ هل هو اليوزر ولا الداتابيس administrator ولا الشركة يعني؟
The metadata is owned by the DBMS. طبعا صحيح. It belongs to the DBMS. He will not allow you to access it يعني. Otherwise he will mess up with the database كلها. معي ولا إيه؟ So he will not allow the metadata to be modified by a person directly. أما اليوزر داتا حقك أنت you change it by the application زي ما أنت عايز.
ايوه اوكي خلاص مشكور دكتور.
بارك الله فيك عني. Any other question يا شباب؟ Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.